You'll be pleased to know this is the last time I'm hosting these awards, so I don't care anymore. I'm joking. I never did. Talking of all you, it was a big year. It was a big year for movies. Surviving R. Kelly, Leaving Neverland, Two Popes. Shut up. Shut up. I don't care.
The idea that there are predators in power, not just in Hollywood, I think all across any place there's a boss with underlings in any corporation or any industry, you have a type of politics that goes on that can slide in between appropriate ethics and decorum to, inappropriate behavior.
To them, Hanks and Epstein together were evil incarnate, raw, depraved, and forever beyond redemption. Despite Hanks' long-standing denials that he was an associate of Epstein's, bombshell DOJ files have exposed the A-list actor's close personal ties to the convicted Africa. The Epstein files paint a disturbing picture of Hanks, connections that mainstream media have long worked to suppress. But now, as whistleblowers come forward to connect the dots, the truth is becoming impossible to ignore.
For years, Tom Hanks was seen as untouchable, the safe choice, the comforting face, the man people trusted without even thinking twice. He wasn't just a Hollywood star, he was America's dad, the guy you pointed to when everything else in the industry felt messy, complicated, or questionable. But sometimes, it's the people we trust the most who end up surrounded by the loudest whispers. Because lately, something strange has been happening. Every time old clips resurface, every time the internet digs deeper into Hollywood's past, one moment keeps getting replayed over and over again. A stage, a microphone, and Ricky Gervais standing in front of the entire industry, smiling, but not joking the way people expected.
You'll be pleased to know this is the last time I'm hosting these awards, so I don't care anymore. I'm joking. I never did. NBC clearly don't care either. Fifth time. So, I mean, Kevin Hart was fired from the Oscars because of some offensive tweets. Hello? Lucky for me, the Hollywood foreign press can barely speak English, and they've no idea what Twitter is. So, I got offered this gig by fax. So, let's go out with a bang. Let's have a laugh at your expense, shall we? Remember, they're just jokes. We're all gonna die soon, and there's no sequel.
It didn't feel like comedy, it felt like a warning. And when people started connecting that moment to the name Jeffrey Epstein, everything changed. Because the internet doesn't just forget things, it remembers, it rewinds, it questions. And now, people are asking a question that once sounded impossible.
Many talented people of colour were snubbed in major categories. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. The Hollywood foreign press are all very, very racist. So, fifth time. So, we were going to do an in memoriam this year, but when I saw the list of people that had died, it wasn't diverse enough. No. It was mostly white people, and I thought, nah, not on my watch.
What if the nicest guy in Hollywood isn't telling the whole story? To understand why this moment hit so hard, you have to go back to where it all began. Tom Hanks didn't rise to fame overnight. His journey wasn't built on scandal or controversy. It was built on consistency, on roles that made people laugh, cry, and feel something real. From Forrest Gump to Castaway, he became the kind of actor people didn't just admire, they trusted. And that trust mattered.
We've got to drag it out for 3 hours. You could binge watch the entire first season of Afterlife instead of watching this show. That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife dies of cancer, and it's still more fun than this, okay? Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way, so in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up! I know he's your friend, but I don't care. You had to make your own way here in your own plane, didn't you?
Because Hollywood has always had two sides, the one you see on screen and the one you don't. The polished interviews, the red carpets, the award speeches, they paint a picture of perfection.
If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and off, okay? So, it's already 3 hours long.
But behind that, for decades there have been rumors, stories whispered quietly, allegations that never quite make it to the surface. When figures like Harvey Weinstein were finally exposed, it shook the entire industry. Suddenly, people realized something uncomfortable. The system had been protecting powerful individuals for a very long time. And that realization changed how audiences looked at everyone, even the ones who seemed untouchable. Tom Hanks, throughout all of this, remained steady, calm, unshaken. He spoke about the darker sides of Hollywood in interviews, acknowledging that abuse of power existed, that there were people who took advantage of others trying to succeed. To many, that made him sound honest, a voice of reason.
I think there was knowledge amongst a certain group of people, mostly who did business with Harvey Weinstein. Mm-hmm. I think in an awful lot of the dialogue that I've read that come out, there are countless women who understood that that's what happened, and there were many people who said, well, that's just Harvey being Harvey.
Well, that's the question. Is it how serious is it? Is it about one person, one man, or is it a culture?
You and I, and even the likes of the people on the Turner Classic movies, constantly understand that the idea of the casting couch that existed in Hollywood is the part of both myth and concrete reality. The idea that there are predators in power, not just in Hollywood, I think all across any place there's a boss with underlings in any corporation or any industry, you have a type of politics that goes on that can slide in between appropriate ethics and decorum to, inappropriate behavior to the point of predatory behavior.
But to others, it raised a different question. How does someone know so much about a broken system and still stay completely untouched by it? That's where the curiosity started. And then came the moment that lit the match. It was the 2020 Golden Globes. The room was filled with the biggest names in Hollywood. Cameras everywhere, laughter expected, safe jokes, polished entertainment. But Ricky Gervais didn't play it safe. From the second he stepped on stage, the tone felt different, sharper, more direct. He wasn't just making jokes, he was pointing fingers without naming names. He talked about hypocrisy, about powerful people pretending to care while hiding uncomfortable truths, about an industry that rewards silence and punishes honesty.
The larger question, is there a culture of complicity in Hollywood where women are afraid to speak up because they'll be blacklisted, men are afraid to speak up because either they're out of the same fear or they just think, well, this is the way the system works?
I think there are people that say, hey, this is how it works, pure and simple, and this is why I got into it, and this is why I have power. This is how it works, and you have to understand that. That does not carry the day. Complicity is also complicity. The people who know, well, look, this is how we do business, and that's what it's got to be done. I'm sorry it's like that. So beware. That's also present, without a doubt, but it does not carry the day. There's also people that were afraid to speak out, who were victims, that did not go forward, that signed, negotiated settlement deals of which a non-disclosure agreement was part and parcel to it. That also does not carry the day. So the dam has burst here in a big way. And it is not just the halls of places like Harvey Weinstein's office where this was standard operating procedure. And it is criminal, and it is cause for termination. It's also happening in every other corner of not just my industry, but yours and throughout all of America.
Do you think this is a kind of tipping point?
Well, I think it absolutely is, in which everybody is asking, men and women, women, what do I put up with and when do I talk about? And men saying, I think we have to live by a code of ethics that we need to think and put down on paper. Don't be surprised if, there's going to be a sign in front of every one of the studio gates that will say all people entering this studio will obey this code of ethics or they will be escorted from the premises. And that will all be about predatory behavior.
And then came the line that people still replay. I don't care anymore. That moment didn't land like a punchline. It landed like a statement. And the camera, it kept cutting to faces in the audience, some laughing, some uncomfortable, some completely still, including Tom Hanks. Now, here's where things take a turn. At the time, it was just another awards show moment. But years later, after everything that came out about Jeffrey Epstein, his connections, his parties, his powerful circle, people started looking back at that speech differently.
I want to get into the bigger picture of how this stuff is all connected. Because when you're talking about really elite levels, the name of the game is blackmail. So they want something on you that they can hold over your head so they can basically own you and tell you what to do. And they film it. And then they own you. So that's what runs the whole system, basically. They want compromised people because they're easy to control. And a lot of people, they'll just go along with it and do whatever just for fame or money or accolades or any of that stuff. I don't understand it. Some people are just really into the evil.
Because Epstein wasn't just a random figure. He was tied to some of the most powerful people in the world: politicians, businessmen, celebrities. His name became a symbol of something much darker, a network that operated behind closed doors. And once that door cracked open, people started asking, who else knew? Who else was around? Who else stayed silent?
Mark Thompson. He runs the New York Times. Now, Mark Thompson was head of the BBC for years and years and years. They covered up allegations. They let him run rampant, and they just covered it up. So this guy, Mark Thompson, is at BBC, and then he goes over to the New York Times. Now think about it. If someone like that is running a giant media organization, what are they going to say? What are they going to tell you? Are they going to tell you the truth? No, no, they're not going to tell the truth. That's why when people say the news is fake, it's because it's run by these people who are into some very, 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 very sick stuff.
But here's the twist. There has never been any confirmed evidence linking Tom Hanks to Epstein's crimes or activities. No official records placing him on Epstein's island, no verified documents proving involvement. Yet that didn't stop the internet. Because in today's world, perception spreads faster than facts. Clips started circulating, old interviews, photos taken out of context, moments stitched together into narratives that felt convincing, even if they weren't proven.
Oh, I'm not going to talk about Tom Hanks either, who is also a... Tom Hanks, folks, is a... I'm sorry if this is the kind of bursting your bubble, all this information is new, but it's time that this comes out into the open because we are going to change the way everything works, because at the top levels of wealth, of power, the very top levels, these people are just sick and psycho. Look into the Rothschild family. Do some research. You heard it's cannibals. Yeah, there is cannibalism. That's the higher you go, the more sick it gets. Peterwood has been happening for a very long. Yes, it has. A very, very, very long time. And this is the thing. This is what really hurts about the situation, because a lot of people are kind of born into this. They grow up in it. And through especially as a child, you can break someone's subconscious mind. If you're not aware of any of this stuff, look into MK Ultra.
People began analyzing everything: his expressions at the Golden Globes, his comments about Hollywood's darker side, even unrelated social media posts twisted into something they were never meant to be. And then the whispers turned into accusations, not based on confirmed facts, but on patterns people believed they were seeing. This is where things get complicated. Because once a narrative takes hold online, it doesn't need proof to survive. It feeds on curiosity, on suspicion, on the idea that there must be something more. And suddenly, the question wasn't whether there was evidence, it was why people felt so convinced there had to be.
My anger consumed me. Did I lie about Seth Green? No, Seth Green's. Am I afraid of something? Well, I should be, because bad things are coming my way.
3 days later, Cappy was found dead in what local authorities assert was a... It's worth noting that Cappy was asked here if he currently felt...
I'm not...
A woman named Sarah Ruth Ashcraft accused Tom Hanks of purchasing her from her father for... She claims to have been abused most of her childhood.
I depersonalize a lot of this because it's really ugly, tough stuff. I'm glad something's being done about it. Because nobody should have to look back on their childhood memories and realize that the things that they thought were just meaningless and innocent were anything but that. Nobody should have to discover these things about their own life.
Meanwhile, Ricky Gervais's speech kept gaining more attention. People began saying he wasn't joking, he was exposing, that his words were aimed at a system, not just individuals, that he knew things others didn't. But here's the reality. Ricky Gervais has never directly accused Tom Hanks of being involved with Epstein, not publicly, not in any confirmed statement. His comedy has always been about pushing boundaries, calling out hypocrisy, making people uncomfortable. That's his style.
Talking of all you, it was a big year. It was a big year for movies. Surviving R. Kelly, Leaving Neverland, Two Popes. Shut up. Shut up. I don't care.
But when you mix that kind of humor with real-world scandals like Epstein's, lines start to blur. And that's exactly what happened. The audience that once laughed at his jokes started reinterpreting them. Every word became a clue. Every pause became intentional. Every reaction shot, especially of Tom Hanks, became part of a larger story people were trying to piece together.
You worship the all high and the evil, that you have to symbolize your work and who you worship. They do it hidden right in your face. It's called karmic retribution. If they tell you who they worship without you realizing who they actually worship, they feel that they don't face judgment for their actions. Nothing is accidental in this world, beautiful people, especially these entities on the world stage that have been manipulating our reality for as long as we can remember. But obviously, as always, this was just for entertainment, beautiful people. Like Tom Hanks is just clearly doing that hand symbol as a random gesture once again, and him being dressed as a woman and doing... implications are just, innocent, and now the fact that he's in the Epstein files has nothing to do with all of this crazy history that you can find on Tom Hanks. And obviously, like I said, just a coincidence.
And this is where the emotional weight of it all really hits, because imagine being in Tom Hanks' position. For decades, you build a reputation based on trust, on kindness, on consistency. You stay out of trouble, you avoid controversy, you become a symbol of stability in an unpredictable industry. And then suddenly, your name starts appearing in conversations you were never part of. Your face becomes a reaction meme for something you didn't say. Your silence gets interpreted as guilt. That kind of pressure doesn't just affect a career, it affects everything: family, relationships, mental health.
We'll see some major judges, including one Supreme Court justice. We will certainly see at least one vice president, possibly two. George Bush and Dick Cheney are out there. I've seen 3 different witnesses say Tom Hanks is it's not just the Catholic Church. It's the Mormon Church, and it's the Christian Zionists, the evangelicals that believe in the red calf and the apocalypse and all that. All of these people are pedophiles at the top, and some of them are Christian pedophiles. All these people that have been doing very evil things with impunity up to now are all of a sudden starting to realize their immunity blanket is being stripped away.
Because no matter how strong your public image is, constant speculation has a way of breaking through. And the hardest part, you can't fight something that isn't based on facts. You can deny accusations, you can clarify misunderstandings, but how do you respond to a narrative built on what if? At the same time, the public is dealing with its own confusion, because after everything that came out about Epstein, trust was already shaken. People realized that powerful networks can exist in plain sight, that things can stay hidden for years, that not everyone gets exposed right away.
You were invited by President Clinton to spend the night. Tell me about what you recall from that.
That was a long time ago. There was always a lot of people in the Clinton White House, and so there's no smaller part of holy cow, I'm in the White House. This is a big deal. I will tell you, there was one time we happened to be in the White House. Didn't spend the night. Me and the family had been in Washington D.C. We were dedicating the National World War II Memorial at its opening. George W. Bush was president. I sat next to him, and we chit-chatted a little bit during the ceremony that was out on the mall. And we had arranged, my younger kids had not been in the White House ever, so we were able to arrange for a tour. And it was a Sunday, so it was a day off. And so when he was going to come down and I guess go to the gym or something, we were sort of like asked to go stand in one of the other rooms. But my wife had gone.
So when new names get pulled into the conversation, even without evidence, some people hesitate to dismiss it completely. Not because they believe it's true, but because they're no longer sure what's possible and what's not. That uncertainty is powerful. It keeps the conversation alive. And now we're here. A moment that started as a comedy monologue has turned into something much bigger, a mix of truth, speculation, fear, and curiosity. Ricky Gervais stood on that stage and challenged Hollywood. Tom Hanks sat in that audience, becoming part of a narrative he never asked to be in. And the internet connected dots that may or may not belong together. So what's the truth? Right now, the only thing that's clear is this.
To them, Hanks and Epstein together were evil incarnate, raw, depraved, and forever beyond redemption. Despite Hanks' long-standing denials that he was an associate of Epstein's, bombshell DOJ files have exposed the A-list actor's close personal ties to the convicted. The Epstein files paint a disturbing picture of Hanks, connections that mainstream media have long worked to suppress. But now, as whistleblowers come forward to connect the dots, the truth is becoming impossible to ignore. Epstein's flight logs have long pointed to one thing. Tom Hanks was a regular on trips to Little St. James, the infamous island. Yet, time and time again, the mainstream media and so-called fact-checkers have circled the wagons, defending Hollywood's golden boy with a barrage of aggressive, questionable denials. They've muddied the waters, smeared the evidence, and left Tom Hanks free to keep living his charmed life, mocking the death of Isaac Cappy, taking vacations with Obama, hanging out with De Niro, untouchable as ever. Then, there are the creepy relics of missing he parades across Instagram, posted with sly winks and coded language designed for monsters who understand exactly what they're looking at. Unfortunately for Tom Hanks and the elite circle shielding him, the latest DOJ Epstein drop just blew his cover wide open. Hollywood publicist Peggy Siegel, a longtime close friend of Jeffrey Epstein, front and center in these explosive files, gets caught on record specifically mentioning Hanks. Hollywood publicist Peggy Siegel, a longtime close friend of Jeffrey Epstein, front and center of these explosive files, was caught on record specifically mentioning Hanks. In her own words to Epstein, she casually refers to Hanks being on that infamous island, and asks Epstein to pass on a personal message to the A-lister. This is direct, documented connection. Straight from one of the files the government mysteriously failed to fully redact. The protectors can spin and deny all they want, but the evidence is out there now, and it's damning. But it gets even worse for Hanks. Much, much worse. Handwritten note straight from a witness statement in the DOJ Epstein files name-drop Tom Hanks by name. The witness testifies that Hanks was a frequent visitor to Zorro Ranch. The witness was a young girl at the time whose family lived near Epstein's compound. She describes how her own Native American family took her to Jeffrey Epstein, a man they treated as a long-term friend and lucrative source of money. She details how her sister was also to Epstein, though only once. She herself was dozens of times, and her credibility is enhanced by her detailed description.
There is no verified evidence proving Tom Hanks was involved with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes or visited his island. Everything else, it lives in the space between suspicion and storytelling. And that space can be dangerous, because once people decide a story feels real, it doesn't always matter whether it actually is. But maybe the bigger question isn't about Tom Hanks at all. Maybe it's about us. Why are we so quick to believe the worst? Why do we revisit moments and reshape them into something darker? Why does one speech, one look, one rumor become enough to change how we see someone completely? Because in the end, this isn't just about a celebrity, it's about trust. And once trust is broken, whether by real events or just the fear of them, it's almost impossible to fully repair. And maybe that's what makes this story so powerful. Not the accusations, not the rumors, but the fact that people are even willing to ask the question. Because once that happens, nothing ever looks the same again.